All right, up here. Okay, well, welcome everyone to another workshop here at the Test Camp. We need to get started. This is Test Prep English. Today we're going to discuss the knowledge and skills that will empower your test confidence. And those of you who are joining us here today, you stayed with us and you're joining us online, well, you're welcome to contribute your comments during the discussions, of course. And if you joined us on demand, welcome to you too. You can pause or restart or replay that video anytime, so you have quite an advantage there. Now, this workshop is part of the Test Prep series. That focuses on single subject tests, standardized tests. The Test Skill series combines subjects and helps you become a better all-around test taker. Great place to start if you're new to the Test Camp. If you want to learn more about teaching, the Future Educators program provides that opportunity also. All right, you get admission to all three areas with your one pass. The motto here at the Test Camp is prepare, practice, and then perform. And you're beginning to prepare here today in this workshop. Practice the testing skills while learning the content over at the training sites, and then expect to perform with test confidence. All right, let's get started. To prepare at the Test Camp is to gain knowledge about the test, but also about yourself. It's the first step in becoming a skilled test taker. We start by learning the test blueprint, learning about the test. All the information you need to know is in the blueprint. This is also a good first step to creating what we call My Study Plan. This is where you start to know a little bit more about you. This is a schedule that includes reviewing and studying the test content, but also helps you with the test skills training. Our first step, however, then, is to identify what types of English questions you can expect to encounter on your test. Now, not the question format. We know that here on a standardized test we're talking about questions that are formatted multiple choice. But during this workshop we're identifying the English competencies on which each test question is built. On an English test there's usually 5 competencies, and we start with structure. This is the first of the 5. You can take a quiz over at the training site based on this competency, and that's going to provide you instant feedback. Point you in a direction if that's where you need to maybe review and study. The second competency is vocabulary. Now this might sound like a competency you can easily recognize, but there's more to vocabulary than you might think, and we'll take a closer look at this in just a moment. And we'll include some sample questions too, right? The third competency is conventions. Now what are conventions? Anyone here know? What would you think a convention is? Yes, actually it is. It is the rules. It's the English rules. How did you know that? Your English teacher talked to you about that. Right, exactly. And there's many different conventions, as you can imagine, a lot of rules that have to do with English. So we'll talk about that also here in just a moment. Usage is one of those rules. It's the usage of words. And the second rule then is mechanics. So you see what we do there. We break that into 2 areas to make it easier for you to know where you might need to review and study. All right, and the last one is sentence formation. So this competency tests your ability to use phrases, clauses, and ideas to create sentences, maybe to create an essay. All right, so there you have it, all 5 of the competencies for English. Now, one of these is not on the test. The test writers do not use these for multiple choice tests. So which one would you think it is? At your tables, see if you can determine which is the least likely to be tested on a multiple choice test. All right? And we'll come back and compare what your thinking is in just a couple of minutes. All right? Everybody try that at your tables. All right, while they're getting started, if you're joining us today live online, share your thoughts, and we're going to include them up here on the discussion boards. And if you're joining us on demand by the Test Camp YouTube channel, this might be a good time to pause the recording and think through these competencies. Which one is the least likely to be addressed on a multiple choice test? And we'll be here when you restart the video. Okay, let's go ahead and start over here. What did your group decide? Yes, over here. Which competency is not going to be on a multiple choice test? Sentence formation, you're saying, and we agree. Well, now why'd you say that? Yes, because it's not easy, right? You can't very well show your ability to structure sentences on a multiple choice test. You could, but it's not the same as having them do what? Yes, have them write them. Yeah, write an essay or write sentences. That makes sense, doesn't it? So the fifth competency really on this test is going to be research. Now, this is not on every test, but it's still something you would need to know. Concepts like citations, you know what I mean by this? Yeah, how to go for, we'll do some sample questions. Plagiarism, have you heard of this? All right, well, we'll include all this in the discussion today and then more over at the training center. All right, let's take a closer look at each competency, beginning with structure up there at the top. All right, what we know about structure is that it has three main concepts: modifiers, parallelism, and syntax. So are you familiar with each one of these terms? All right, see, I'm seeing people saying yes. Are you ready to answer test questions based on these? Yeah, not so much. So how can you find out if you really understand something? It's when you can explain it out loud. So here we go again, at your tables. Turn to your neighbors, help each other succeed here. Take turns trying to explain what these concepts mean aloud. And we'll come back in a couple minutes and we'll talk about how well it went at your table. All right, again, for you folks joining us today live online, share your thoughts and we'll include them in the discussion. And if you're joining us on demand by the Test Camp YouTube channel, this might be a good time to pause the recording and explain these concepts aloud. Can you do it? Like maybe you're explaining it to an elementary student. All right, we'll be here when you restart the video. All right, starting over here, how did it go? Were you able to do all three? Not that well? Why not? Why do you think? So these aren't concepts you've learned or that you talk about every day. All right, good point. But you're probably going to need to know them for an English test, especially a standardized test. All right, here's a sample question. Thank you for that. Here's a sample question based on this competency. See if you can tell why this is a structure question. All right. Yes, go ahead, right over here. Right, so we're not here to answer the questions today, although you can see their answers are up there. They're bulleted. This is what it's going to look like on in your training center over there when we're talking about identifying concepts. There's a whole section just for this. So you get really good at knowing what kind of question you're looking at. Very good. Good question. All right, let's see. We're going to head on to vocabulary. Right. This can be thought of in the terms of three main concepts. Right, the meanings and definitions of words, the selection of a proper word according to the meaning, and consideration of how it might sound to your audience, and that's called diction and tone. Now, here's a sample question. Can you see what's being asked here? All right, so they're asking a definition. All right, so we're doing not looking for the right answer here. We're looking for the competency. All right, the third competency that test writers use to make an English test would be usage. Remember, this was one of the two rules, the conventions. Okay, then they can also be thought of in several ways. Verbs, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, that sort of thing, right? The types of words and how they're used. All right, here's a sample question. All right, so now you're catching on, right? This would be usage. The fourth competency then is mechanics, right? That's another, again, has to do with the rules or the conventions. So the mechanics are going to be, how about your spelling, your use of punctuation, capitalization. And the format of these questions can be a little bit unusual. You've seen these before, like this? Oh, groan. Yeah, well, we know this is a mechanics question. These take a little bit longer, so sometimes these are the ones you mark and save when you take a test. You'll learn about that in the training center. All right, the next competency and the final one actually here is the research. And skills related to this competency including determining types of sources, conducting searches, like library searches, internet searches, right? And the proper use of citations. Do we know what that means, citations? All right, when we look at these sample questions, we're going to start at the bottom, down here in the answer set. So, a scholarly article, an opinion poll, a commentary, a recent article. Now you look up and look in the question and see what are they asking for. All right, what's the key words or phrases up there? Somebody think you know? How about over here? primary source. There you go. All right, here's another sample. We're going to start at the bottom. Website, conference paper. Do you know what that means? People go to these conferences and they write a paper, it gets accepted. They share it with their peers, right? A journal or a book. Now let's see what's being asked at the top. Okay, a type of resource again. Let's try to eliminate a couple of these answers. I'm going to start by saying that's probably not a website. And I've been to a lot of conferences. That's not a citation for a conference paper. So that leaves either a journal or a book. All right, see how that works? Makes it easier for you to find the right answer when you go this way. All right, so there you have it. Those are the competencies, which we now know are pretty much evenly and randomly distributed on your tests. They're all mixed up. Even though the quizzes are individual, the tests are not. And there will be plenty of practice tests over there in the training center too. Can you see now why this is important, right? To identify a question by the competency, that gets you one step closer to choosing the correct answer. All right, what do you know about the percent to pass for standardized tests? Pretty high, pretty low compared to school? Well, the percentage needed here at the test camp in the training centers is 80%. And that's actually higher than the pass rate for most statewide tests or standardized tests. For example, if you had 40 questions, you would just need to get 32 correct answers. All right, so that's kind of how it works. All right, so before we do this, let's go one more time at your tables. Which would you choose? If you could take a multiple choice today, but it was only built on one of these competencies, where do you feel more confident? Which one would be more challenging? All right, talk it over with your neighbors, and we'll get back together as one big group and discuss your preferences. Hey there again. If you're joining us today live online, please go ahead and keep sharing your thoughts. This is working out really well. We're including them right up here on our discussion board so we can see what you say. And if you're joining us on demand by the TestCap YouTube channel, this is another good opportunity for you to pause that recording, do a little bit of self-reflection. If the tests were scheduled for this week, which would you choose? Which would be your if the test could only be in one area, for example, 40 questions, but they just came from structure or mechanics, which would you choose? All right, when you're ready, go ahead and restart the video. All right, we are back. A lot of interesting discussion about strategies to review and study for this test. I think we can summarize by saying, like we do in all the workshops, that there's no real one right way to approach these tests, and everybody probably has a little bit of different preferences on these. But we do need to at least review and study in advance before we try these tests. Now, speaking of preparing for the test, you started here today. You've joined this workshop, so good for you. You're gaining knowledge about the test and what to expect on the test and yourself. So another way to prepare, select the tools you might need or the resources for guaranteeing your success. Now, you can expect to see this sign along the way when you're over there at the test center in your test skills training. These are encouraging messages that are posted by those who've gone before you, right? In this case, the message is to avoid spending your time and money on expensive resources that you just don't need. There's a lot of things out there, commercial webinars. These are a good example. Avoid paying a fee for test information and strategies that are really out there for free. You don't need that. Expensive tutors and tutoring companies. They might be an option for a more challenging test, but certainly not for something like this. And also, they're telling you to beware of the overpriced study guides. Have you seen these out there? Has anybody seen these guides? Like if you're going in the store, how much are you paying for these things? Yeah, $40. I've seen $40 or more too. Well, many of the study guides available are either free or inexpensive. We're going to show you how in just a minute. And of course, a more effective and inexpensive resource is textbooks. And now that you know the competencies being tested, if you're serious about this and you want to do well on these tests, you can go back then. You don't need the teacher to do this with you or a tutor. You can go back and review the study test content by yourself. Take pride in yourself. In the My Resources area over at the training site, you can expect to find the most popular and up-to-date tools for your success. So there's some links right there. Again, I don't think, none of those cost anything. They're all either free or very inexpensive. So instead of investing time and money on resources, invest it in yourself. Take pride in your own accomplishment. You can practice your test skills, expect to gain confidence and personal independence. Your pass provides admissions to all of these training sites that you see right here. Up there at the top, that's My Test. All right, and this is an activity that lets you check your understanding of the test blueprint and everything we discussed here today. You can also take it pre-test before you start your training. And this is the Test Camp problem solving system. The first step to finding the correct answer up there, to identify the competency. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, we've been doing a little bit of that today. All right, quizzes and tests provide an opportunity to practice your test skills while assessing your test content knowledge. And the quizzes, like we said earlier, are based on each one of the competencies. Yes, go ahead. I'll repeat it for the folks listening. Yes, you get up to 3 attempts on each quiz, and the questions and answers change randomly on each attempt. Right, good question. And so that kind of tells you where you might want to review or study. And then here's what you can do next. Go take the practice test. They're all combined. They're constructed with features like those you can actually expect on test day. As you complete the training activities, you can even earn points towards a professional test certificate. Right, and they'll show you how over at the training site. And that guarantees your success on this. All right, then expect to perform with the confidence that comes from the knowledge and the skills you earned during the training. All right, let's get started. There's no better time than now to empower your test confidence.